sleep.
How long did that take? Like full start to finish?
10 hours.
10 hours?
Yeah, I did 2 separate times, 5 hours.
Okay.
Weirdly therapeutic.
You might have to talk about that again because that's...
Okay.
Yeah.
I shall.
Okay.
Are we good to go here?
Yep, we're good to go. So our guess is, okay, so before,
Yes.
the name one more time, your last name.
Najarian.
Najarian. Okay, I thought I was saying it right, but I just want to make sure. Okay. Our guest is Dr. Taleen Najarian. She's a physical therapist that's been practicing since 2012 when she graduated from Oakland University's physical therapy program. She has continued her education by having interactions with a broad range of other professionals, from medical doctors all the way to energy healers. This, coupled with her own observations and frustrations in regards to patient care and practice, have only increased her desire to provide the best possible care by challenging the system. She is able to spread her message by filling a role as a teaching assistant in the physical therapy department at Oakland University. Her open mind helps her shape and continue to improve her practice. The empathy that has fostered in her from having a brother deal with cerebral palsy drives her passion to provide the best possible care she can. Thanks for coming.
That was a really nice intro.
So I'm just going to cover where we can find her too. So she can be found on the intrawebs at drnajarianphysicaltherapy.com. That's DRNAJARIAN physicaltherapy.com. On Instagram at performance.physicaltherapy, all one word. Facebook Physical Therapy. Facebook is Performance Physical Therapy, and on Twitter at Dr. Najarian at PT. Okay.
All over the place.
Anything else you want to add?
I think you summed it up really nicely.
Okay.
I'm kind of flattered with that. Thank you.
Yeah. I had more thoughts, but I just was like, all right, that's already a paragraph, and sometimes I get carried with the intro. So, anyways, so thanks so much for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Can I get you anything? I did bring beverages, just in case.
I mean, we
Because I would
can
join you.
spice it
I would
up.
totally join you if you want.
We're gonna start a new trend and have
I like this trend, yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, yeah. So, intro was good. We're getting beer,
It's
so just
Sunday.
give us a
I
second.
mean,
Yeah,
right?
it's Sunday. It's 1:30,
Okay.
1:45.
It's fair. Oh, surprise me. I like the
Surprising, do you like stouts? Do you like what
anything
beer?
but stouts or porters are generally my jam.
Anything but.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can.
There you go.
Wonderful.
Everybody likes soft parade.
Yeah.
That's really good. They're all
What do you
soft.
rate
Those are all
it?
soft parade, I think, John.
What do you want?
Give me the purple
Trying to
one.
knock me out of my ass with one of these.
Those aren't really heavy. Those aren't
Soft
super
parade.
heavy. So we'll do a cheers when John gets back over here
I
for
love
the camera.
Purple.
Beautiful. Mine's the fruitiest
Really?
looking one.
Wow,
Wow.
I didn't know you were into that. That's okay.
Oh, this is a light soft parade.
Yeah, it is. It's not heavy.
Like shandy.
Yes, that's what my friend said. I like
Yes,
the
yes.
sissy stuff.
Cheers,
Cheers,
guys.
Okay.
Here we go.
That's
Shout out
delightful.
Shorts Brewery.
So the reason we have you on today is primarily to talk about injury prevention. Now we know you kind of you'll be there when people get hurt and stuff like that, but your number one thing that you talked about with me was once you get better, don't do this again.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
and because once you have an injury,
You're always more susceptible to re-injuring again.
mhm,
The quality of whatever you injured, whether it's tendon, ligament, muscle, it's never going to be 100% again. So you're always going to be more susceptible to re-injuring that. And also, we generally have bad movement patterns that predispose us to re-injuring whatever the first injury was. And I think too, just along the lines in general of injury prevention, physical therapists aren't really seen as a wellness and prevention profession. It's always I'm going to go see you after I have an injury.
Treat whatever crazy
Yeah.
thing happened.
And I tell all my patients, use me like a hygienist. Do the work at home, whatever that might be, whether it's strengthening, mobility, your own soft tissue stuff. I'll teach you how to apply cups. I'm happy to do that as far as the maintenance thing. And then when you really need a deep cleaning, come and see me. I think that's honestly the best form of injury prevention is really the prevention side of it. You might feel good. That's the time to schedule an appointment or go see someone. It doesn't have to be me. It can be a chiropractor, massage therapist, whatever it might be. I'm all for creating your own team.
yeah,
I think every hands-on profession has its place. I'm not an absolutist. I don't think physical therapists are the end all be all. I can't do everything. So I'm all for using everyone in your toolbox and doing it before you're absolutely crippled.
That's always a good idea.
Right, 'cause that's how I came to with that. I couldn't put my shoes on, so that's what. Yeah, and I know.
And
better.
that's generally how I see people too.
Right, but it's not great.
No.
It's not a good way.
It makes my job a little bit more difficult, which I love. I love the challenge, but at the same time,
loving the challenge, but like, do you feel any better? I'm in so much pain, I don't know. You know, but the one thing that I really liked, the reason I went with you personally was, well, not only because I love the way you know anatomy and everything like that, but like, you're just honest. Which
sometimes to a fault.
Which I think,
But I think we appreciate that. You know, for anybody who's listening to our podcast, like, we're not about the bullshitters, and there's a lot of bullshitters in like what you do, what we do, just the general health and wellness like kind of field. Right, so like anyone who's like completely honest, like I love that you said, like, you know, there should be a team of people, and I don't care if it's me or, you know, a chiropractor or this person or that person. Like, not just like, no, you have to come see my methods are like this unique pioneered thing that no one else has, right? And there's too much of that bullshit.
It really is.
I invented stretching. That mobility thing, Kelly Starr, he got that from me.
So I've done a little listening.
Mm-hmm.
I've dabbled. I'm
Okay.
not a big podcast person, I have
Okay.
to admit. I'm more of a written word. I like to read articles,
Okay.
books. Like I like to flip pages.
Yeah.
But I
Physical
have,
books?
Yes,
Okay.
I love the idea of physical books.
Gotcha.
But I did some dabbling, and I've been listening to your podcast. And you guys talked before about like continuing education.
Yeah.
You're kind of like an anti-cert.
To an extent, yeah.
To a degree,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We just
And
don't think, Go ahead.
I
I'm sorry.
completely agree with that too, where you have all these different organizations that think that what they do is the end all be all.
Yes.
And I don't believe in that.
Yeah.
I don't think that what I do is the end all be all by any means. But it is interesting that some of the modalities that I do use, being like cupping and jar needling, have been around for umpteen centuries. Right? So I think there's something to be said about that, but there's the same common principles even in personal training with various certifications where you're getting the same nuances, just someone wants to put their own little spin on it and make money on it. Call it theirs for sure. And again, it's all business.
Yeah.
But it's this like absolutist mentality that it doesn't serve anyone well at the end of
Which
the day.
is what drew me to John as a trainer in the first place, was because John just has a whole big bag of tools, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason I wanted him to be with me on this, is because when I came to the place we were working at, I had one tool, and that was the barbell. And if you couldn't pick it up or squat it, I didn't want you.
You're on the team.
You know, and so, which while that did make me really good at coaching that stuff,
For sure.
being an
Screwed on everything
absolutist,
else.
I was just like, well, I kind of want to work with the kettlebells. Yeah, I don't do shit with those, so I don't know anything about it. And then like, back on the cert thing, like, I took a certification and I learned a lot during it. And Cliff, I don't know if you'll ever listen to our podcast, but that dude was a great instructor. And I learned a ton, but like, am I going to apply that with a client? No, not until I do it for a while.
Right.
And with the way the shape I'm currently in, I can't apply it right now. So.
Well, I think it's just building that toolbox, right? Whatever the discipline, just building that toolbox big enough where you can, you know, pull things from it in certain situations. You might not use it for a year until somebody walks in your door with some weird thing, and you're like, oh, this is a perfect place to apply this. And not being married to that and saying, okay, I'm going to apply this technique that I paid a lot of money to and to learn, and like use it with every single person that comes in, because that's the only way. It's, you have to distinguish that and kind of take the ego out of it.
Absolutely. I
So,
agree.
what is your, I guess, background then, as far as like, you know, this?
It's not very traditional.
Okay.
I've kind of always marched the beat my own drum.
Okay.
So I was going to be a communications major.
Communication.
Yeah. And then, I mean, I enjoyed that. I really appreciated some of the classes that I had in communications. But I knew I always wanted to do something medical and health related.
Mm-hmm.
I was very turned off by med school. My brother that has cerebral palsy, he's about 6 years older than me. So he was back home going to med school. when I was home in college,
Mhm.
and so I saw him go through like the first couple of years. He'd be up until like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then have to
Yeah,
get up
yeah.
at 6. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind working hard, but
Yeah.
this just doesn't look fun.
Yeah.
Not that school's supposed to be all fun,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it seemed awful. So I
In
looked
normal
into
school-
nursing.
Normal school, you just do drugs.
Right.
And party education. I mean,
Sometimes
I'm just
it's
being
fun.
honest. Go ahead.
I looked into nursing, and at the time, like, nursing was a lot of overflow of just basics, a lot of like drug administering, and not necessarily like the true patient care. Nursings are absolutely phenomenal. I work with a few of them at a Detroit hospital that I do contingent work for, and I admire them, but it's just not what I wanted to do. And also too, like, the whole medicine inside of the body, I didn't love that. It was more of like the outside that really intrigued me, especially with my brother. So I was kind of his shadow growing up, and so we had a physical therapist come to the house. I went to physical therapy with him, and a lot of times it was always like play because he was younger at the time. And that really interested me, how physical therapy was incorporated into that. And I always just was a caretaker for him. He had multiple surgeries growing up, and so I think that's where it all started. I actually looked into getting, like, I went through this quarter life crisis when I graduated from college. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do now with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that's when I started looking at all these things, and I actually went to Oakland and talked with the director there of the exercise science program. Like, I think I might want to go that route, get my master's in kinesiology or exercise science, then go from there.
Who was the director at the time?
Goslin.
Goslin, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Not Dr. Hugh or...
Name another one.
Well, Goslin...
Does Goslin have the
Brian-
accident one? Or no? Who was
What's that?
exercise phys?
Um...
That was Marks. No, it was Goslin. Yes.
Yeah, Mark's... Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Goslin. So I chatted with him, and he's like, well, there's 2 routes you can go. It can be like cardiac rehab, or it can be personal training. And neither of them really like got me excited.
Yeah.
And he's the one that actually suggested physical therapy. I was like, wow, it was this epiphany.
Yeah.
It's like, of course I want to do this.
Yeah, okay.
But because of my background with my brother, and it just, there were a lot of principles throughout the curriculum that I identified with. But again, I knew it wasn't going to be my end-all be-all. I again had like an unorthodox approach in school where I finished my first year of PT school, went out to San Diego to just take a little quick respite and breather. Ended up falling in love with San Diego. Applied to another PT school out there. I was like, well, if I get in, I'm going to go there. If I don't, then that's my answer. Well, I ended up getting in. Transferring programs was kind of a debacle. Transferring grad
I was
school.
going to say, how does that work? Because that's not a very common thing, right?
No, not at all.
Never even
And
heard of that.
in hindsight, probably shouldn't have been allowed to transfer. Like, they ran on trimesters, and at Oakland, we were on semesters, and
So it was a whole...
it was a
thing,
shit
yeah.
show. A great life learning experience. I was, on my own across country without any support, so that was great, just to build my confidence on my own. Academic-wise, I wasn't getting anywhere quickly, which was pretty frustrating, so I ended up moving home, again, having a second quarter life crisis. Was not accepted into any school at the time. I withdrew. Thought about like going to PA school if I didn't get back into PT school. So again, it's this like whole continuum of something in healthcare, and I finally got back into Oakland and finished up, and that's what got me here.
That's awesome.
From like the credential standpoint, I went on a continuing education binge my first year that I graduated after I got licensed. I think I took every single abbreviation certification. I just went to town for like a full 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
And everything kind of stemmed back to what I already knew, which was also reinforcing of
the things you
the things I knew.
Yeah.
So it was great though, because again, like I think you guys mentioned before, you learn the most from others. Whether it's like directly a personal trainer, some adjunct career. I've learned a ton from chiropractors I took a couple courses with. I went and I studied with a guy out in California, and he did more of a Paul Chek, whole body mind, spirit
Yeah.
thing. That was pretty cool. And again, like with all these people, you kind of pick and choose.
Pull the good things that you like see a real benefit from, and
Yep.
then maybe like some of the kind of crazier things you kind of okay, maybe that's not for me, or you know.
Or
And
maybe
there might
like
be that
maybe
one person that enters
That's true,
like
right? That's true.
that's on your plate that you end up
Yeah.
using that down the road with.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where I was doing some travel with a group of friends that are actually all gym owners nationwide,
Mm-hmm.
and this was more for my own like personal development. Like I love training and nutrition and all the fun things that come along underneath that umbrella. And we'd go and sign up for a course, spend a couple days together, and yeah, I'd get something away from the course, but it was always the people that I was with that I
Yeah.
learned the most from.
Yeah, and probably the conversations surrounding whatever
Absolutely.
was going on.
Yep. And sometimes it was like a complete bashing
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
you know, what
Like,
we
well,
were
that
trying
was
to
a waste
learn.
of
It was a waste of
$1,000
time,
or
but
a waste of a day.
you know.
I get
That's
He
what's
just
done
yelled
every
at you and cleansed your energy.
So here I am. I don't do, I guess, like the normal physical therapy as a lot of people
Yeah.
see in most clinics.
So you're not just like doing like band extra
No,
rotations and
There's no
rotations
counting
all
of
day.
reps. There's no ultrasound.
Okay.
There's no e-stim unless it's hooked up to needles.
Okay.
And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
I really like the one-on-one personal care that you
Okay.
get.
Yeah.
I was a little jaded during some of my last clinical experiences where it became a production pushing. It's the right word. There's just an undertone of that
Yeah.
in the day-to-day work.
Like, what do you
And I
mean
didn't
by
love
that?
that.
Like an upsell?
Or just like a
Like you have to meet
increased
this,
volume
yeah.
from a business standpoint, and
increased
that's like
volume.
kind of the number one thing. Versus
Exactly.
like
You have to
what is
get
the best for this
X
patient.
amount of units. You need to bill
Mm.
this amount.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
It takes
Yeah.
the fun out of
Focus.
it. Like,
Gotcha.
like you have to do squats in every single program. You can't like divert from that, and that must be met.
Gotcha.
And so there's a little bit of
Okay.
that in there.
Gotcha.
Whereas I really thought that the hands-on work that I was able to provide served the greatest benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, again, pretty jaded, and I had an opportunity to open up my own place. I initially thought about doing travel PT, and just, again, I was in a whimsical spot where, like, I don't know what I want to do. I have my license. Now what do I do with the rest of my
Yeah.
life? And then this opportunity kind of fell into my lap.
So how far, like after graduating, like finishing school, did you open your own spot, your own place?
A month?
A month. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. You
Yeah.
just kind of dove in.
Go for it.
Let's get dirty.
I went back out to California for a week to, like, again, regroup.
Yeah.
That's kind of my place in San Diego.
Yeah.
And then
And you just went for it.
I did.
That's awesome.
What? I'm gonna pull it off for this. Just I gotta interrupt.
Go for it.
Hi, San Diego. Is it the homeless people?
I mean,
so
isn't the
great
weather like
there.
perfect
It's
there? Like every
perfect.
single day, like
Yes.
never rains. It's always like the same temperature.
Winter, it rains maybe a couple days.
Okay.
If it does rain, it's not like a complete washout. It's always 70,
It's
a little
still
warmer, a
I
little
guess
colder.
That's still not enough for me. There's just so
No.
many people and
It's better than LA though, I will say.
okay.
LA feels like a lot of people. San Diego feels much
Yeah.
more laid back.
Okay, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe
Just
I'll have to.
There's a little bit more of a surfer vibe, very healthy community in
Yeah.
general, really active.
No, I don't really like it now. This beer's gone straight to my brain.
So, since you opened your place, how long have you been in business then?
That was 2013, so we're working on
7 years?
almost 8 years. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's, yeah.
And I get to be my own boss.
Yeah, that's
it's
great.
great. It is really great, and I
Yeah.
get to treat patients the way that I want to treat them.
Which is very well, by the way.
I said I should really well after like that. How do I do it?
The first time I went in there, I was so chatty. And I was like, am I talking too much? I feel like I'm talking too much. And she's like, no, it's fine. I haven't seen people either in a while, you know? And I'm like, I think I had motor mouth.
But that's also the nice thing about having just this non-traditional practice is that I always find that people come to me for some other reason than this injury. Like there's some other connection, or they do need to talk.
Yeah.
And along the lines of conversation, there are so many clues that help me figure out what the true issue is that's going on. And I think this comes back like full circle to injury prevention. The biggest thing that I see is always a perfect storm with an injury. It's never just one thing. It's always a multitude of factors. But stress always seems to be the thing that sets this fire off.
Yeah.
And if we can manage our stress, and this is something I need to hear too, if we can manage our stress a little bit better, I think we'll generally feel better. And I think one of those biggest things is also sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to the prevention side,
Yeah.
managing stress and then adequate sleep for, some people like 6 hours or 8 hours or whatever, that's two things you think would help with prevention of injury?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I know from even like, just to give you a personal anecdote, if I'm run down, burning the candle at both ends, I usually have some weird injury, and that's like whatever higher being or the universe or whatever might be telling me, slow the F down, because I'm going to make you slow down.
Yeah.
You can't do this.
Yeah.
You can't keep going full speed ahead. That's happened to me many, many, many times.
No, I like
I
that.
think because I'm an older model, I just get injured when I sit longer.
I feel that too. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things to this whole quarantine, stay home order. Everyone's working in a very different environment. A lot of at-home work, poor work setups in that regard.
Yeah.
I've seen so many like post-quarantine injuries that are low back pain, sciatic nerve issues, and shoulders. Because everyone's like,
That's interesting,
and so much sitting.
And you're sitting around more because you're at home and
Yes.
you can't go out.
Yeah, a little bit of this
as much.
too.
Yeah. Video games, cell phones,
Eat
Right.
pizza,
Netflix.
have
Yeah.
another vegetable in the week.
doing this with a beer.
Exactly.
I'm gonna stay till 3. Chelsea's not here. This is fantastic.
So what do you do then, like, if you're working with a newer patient and like after like the intake and like assessments, all that kind of stuff, and you kind of see that like stress, sleep, those kind of things are a problem. Like, what is your kind of like? I know it's a case by case basis, but like, do you have any like guidelines you try to give them, or is it just completely dependent on the person as far as like improving those things?
It is very personalized.
Yeah.
But a lot of the commonalities that I do see
Mm-hmm.
are like postural things.
Mm-hmm.
Is
You
it-
notice pillow? Which again comes into play with shoulder stuff and back stuff. And that honestly are the two of the most common things. I kind of get excited when I get
Something else.
like an elbow or a knee
Like,
or an
ooh,
ankle, like
it's so
another
unique.
joint. But again, I think it's like a societal thing where
We loaf.
we do.
And
Absolutely.
then we don't hip hinge. Like I find we talked when I went to your office, that was really neat because I hadn't seen the doctor yet, the lower back specialist yet, and you were asking me questions, and you were like, I'm sure you had something in mind, like why you were asking those questions, but then you were like, well, do you have numbness on your shin? And I'm like, I don't know. And then you're like, all right, well, and then I was like, I do have numbness. And she's like, yeah, it's probably you have a nerve issue of some sort, but we got to figure out what's causing the nerve issue. And then, sure as shit, I went to the doctor, a low back specialist, and he was like, he did this the same thing you did, a little rub test, and I'm like, yeah, I have nerve problems. I already knew, so it's just like, it was really neat that, because I'd been to other doctors before, and never had I had anybody that was like, oh yeah, it's a nerve. It's something's impacting the nerve.
Right.
So I always thought it was
Making
like
the nerve
muscle
unhappy.
tissue, and then I think when I was telling John the story of how I injured my back a long time ago, I thought it was muscular because I went to a chiropractor, and of course he's like, yeah, you need to be here 6 times a week, and for 6 weeks, and then like I didn't know about regression to the mean then, and all that yada yada yada. So like,
Yeah. Back to what you're saying too. Another thing that I like generally prescribe, as I think I told you too, I don't try and give too much homework because once I do that, people don't do it. So I'll try and give like 1 or 2 exercises something they can do at home, or some sort of like self-mobilization to do. And that's kind of my theme of how I work with a new patient.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of it is just the education standpoint is huge. Some patients don't even know what they're doing throughout their day. That's the direct cause of the issue. Oh, I'm sitting. Well, yeah, that's probably why your sciatic nerve is super unhappy.
Yeah.
Because you're compressing it.
Yeah, 10 hours
We're
a day.
sitting like this
Sitting,
all day long.
in one position the
One
whole time.
position. Yeah.
So
Wait, are we talking about me specifically?
Maybe.
So do you have any like general like just kind of tips, or if like someone's listening and they're like, wow, this is me like I'm working from home now all the time and like my shoulder hurts, this hurts, that hurts. Do you have any like general tips of like how to make it like more efficient and just better overall to kind of help prevent those things? I mean,
For
it's a very
sure.
general
I mean,
question, but
well, again, like along the same patterns that I see a lot of glute, hamstring weakness, and we're just like completely shut down.
Yeah.
So I love just the idea of being able to do a really basic glute bridge. And I tell my patients, put your hands on your glutes when you're doing them. If you don't feel tension, you don't feel like a squeeze underneath it, you're not using it. You know, a muscle has to contract. And I also see as far as like the shoulder goes, really poor lower trap development. There's so much emphasis around here and very little emphasis on the backside. So any sort of like lower trap work plus rowing, which counteracts a lot of this. So those are kind of my two biggies.
and unfortunately, that's what people don't like to do. They like to do the front side of the body, like the show muscles,
That's what you can
right?
see, right?
The pecs, the shoulders, all that fun stuff, and they don't want to do rows. They don't want to do that stuff, you know.
For sure.
They don't want to do glute bridges and RDLs and all those great exercises. It's all about the front.
That's right. The aesthetic muscles you can see.
I think that the tide's shifting on that a little bit, at least the glutes, because glutes have been like in vogue now since.
That's true.
That's true.
Yes. We got
so
the
that's
hips thrusting
awesome.
all over the
So-
Maybe
place.
that's something Instagram did good.
Yeah, maybe it is. So
because of Instagram.
when you're doing glute bridges, what makes me contract harder is to pretend somebody else is touching my glutes.
Whatever works for you, man. Find what works for you. It's kind of a...
If I squeeze more here, people will squeeze it out there more. Just
That's funny.
But yeah, so the glute training has really taken off, but like I think we're seeing the more fancy you make it, like the less. I mean, at least for me, the fancier you make the glute exercise, like the
less muscle recruitment, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, again, with like a whole low back issue or whatever it might be, your glutes and hamstrings are completely shut down. The fancier you make it, the harder it is going to be to engage the muscle that's already in this pain spasm cycle. So make it easy. Like, so in the hospital, like after surgery, often you'll have a patient do glute sets, which is pretty much squeezing your butt while you're laying down. Super, super basic. If you can't do that, you can't initiate a hip thrust.
Correctly. Yeah, and I think also it's an important point too that like just because you're throwing like a miniband around your legs and like every exercise doesn't mean you're like doing any good here. Okay, like that doesn't mean you're doing like more glute work and it's gonna fix all your problems just by like throwing a band on every single exercise ever.
I think, and to add to that point, you're right, but especially when they're doing the monster walk and their knees are caving in the entire time.
Right.
It's like they have to pee really bad. They're going to the bathroom. There's a band around their legs, and you're
That's
like,
not the point.
that is not it. Like I think if somebody can move laterally, I don't say me, but somebody can move laterally, and you can fire the glutes up just by using your own body weight and moving. I think that's
You don't have to load.
then maybe you can go to the band maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean there's research coming out now that squats and deadlifts work glutes more than glute bridges. I don't know if I haven't actually.
That's a big controversy with
Yes, it is.
not gonna name any names, but it's a big controversy.
Yeah, it's
Catching whiff of that on the interwebs.
It's fun to watch. Like I like to observe these things, like these little arguments between like the top people, in the fields, and like
The gurus.
That's what brings up the field though. In general, is when those titans collide, because
and
one
something good comes out of it.
One is less right than the other, and then you figure that out, and you're like, oh shit, and then you become, I think hopefully they do, but I become aware of my biases, because like Brett Contreras, I'm like, that guy knows everything about glutes. Look at the girls he trains; they all got big asses. They're great. But But then you have somebody come along, the guy that refuted his EMG studies was like, this is wrong. You only need to train the top portion of the glute bridge. You want to keep the shins vertical throughout the whole thing, and you're going to have more recruitment, and you're going to have better recruitment and less reps, I think, is something along the lines of that, I'm sure. And then his refute, Brett Contreras' refute of that was that this guy doesn't even lift. And it's like, not a really great refute. And I get it to a certain extent. Like, you know, like if a guy that weighs like 130 pounds and he's never picked up a barbell tries to tell me how to deadlift, I'm gonna tell him to eat shit.
I think that's true with any profession, right? Like you're not gonna see a dentist that has crooked yellow teeth. You'd probably be less inclined to see me if I don't know, I try to take care of myself. I'm not, something I'm continuing to work on as well. Whole stress management, time management, all that in there too. But again, like there's a certain look to every profession that definitely plays along into your credibility.
I have never seen anybody in your profession look like you, though, to be honest. And if you're just listening, she's jacked. She's in good shape. She carries a tan. She's got tats. She's just, it's way different than any of you ever done.
I don't know
So
if to get my head out of this basement. It's gonna explode.
He gives the best.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's true. I mean them. I mean, you know, like it's it's that call to authority, right? That authority bias. You're gonna listen to people that like we talk about it all the time, but then like you know, to go into this part, like I want to be more productive, and I'm having trouble being more productive. So I want to talk to somebody about like I want to go to a therapist and try and pull more out of me.
Sure.
But I don't want to go to a woman because she's not a man.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like I'm just a hypocrite. We're all hypocrites in one way or another, but like Chelsea called me on it, and she's like, well, why would you want to go to a woman? I'm like, well, because I'm a man, and I want to, you know, I want to make X amount of dollars, and I'm making X amount of dollars, and she's like, yeah, they probably go through that too. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not a man, you know, like, and it's like, that's the only argument I have is kind of shady, you know. So, but I still think looking the part helps.
It definitely does.
You know what I mean? But yeah. So that's where I went with that. Sorry.
You're
A
good.
little tangent.
We like
That's
Darren.
what it's all about.
Makes it more fun. So what kind of training do you do, like personally?
So, let's see, what was it? I got involved probably 3 months ago, doing some mixed martial arts.
Yeah, there we go.
And I have to admit it's been really transformative.
Yeah.
I was in, I think as everyone was, like a bit of a rut with being quarantined. I do have a little gym set up in my basement, so I was able to keep moving. That's something I have to do daily, just for my meditation more than anything.
Yeah.
But it's been life changing, I must say. And then, so I started working out at a gym nearby, and again, a lot of people would walk into my door through that gym, and they were all trying to get me to come to a class, come try this. I was like, I'm okay. I mean, I need my hands. I can't get injured. I'll be screwed.
Then you tried it and you're like, I really like punching people in the face.
Love it. Absolutely love it. There's something, I don't know, it gets to your soul a little bit.
Yeah. It's a super funny thing. Like it's if you've never tried or trained martial arts, it's hard to explain. But it's like this thing where like it's like this primal kind of feeling almost. And it sounds silly, but like when you do these types of things, whether it's mixed martial arts, like even karate, I don't care, like Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, like whatever it is, like you're doing these like kind of very physical things, and it like if you do it regularly, like it kind of like takes your like aggression like out of things, and like you have more control over like emotion and things like that. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
For sure. I mean, there are days that I go there in the morning, I'm like, oh, I don't know about this today. I don't know. And I leave a much better person every time.
Yeah.
There are points where I don't know if I want to cry or scream during training. And there's something really humbling about offering up your body to someone else, knowing that at some point, like, there's this trust component where they have to let you go, right? Like you tap, they don't let you go, you're screwed.
You're breaking
so
something
there's
or going to
such a
sleep.
respect for someone else's being too, but yet you're also trying to kill it at the same time.
Yeah, it's like
It's
this
so
interesting, like, kind of like
It's a dance.
push-pull,
Yep.
yin-yang thing. It's super interesting.
And I have a background in gymnastics,
Yeah.
and still, like, so
humbling,
humbled.
right?
So incredibly humbled. It's been great. I feel like some of the rust is starting to fall off my spine and hips and getting things moving again.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of addicted where I don't know,
I
might. We'll see what happens. I mean, I would be open
Let's
to
go.
it.
Yeah.
I'd definitely be open to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me like fearful.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm
That's
not
awesome.
that good yet. I've got one
So-
strike on my
Hey,
way.
there
So
you go. There you go.
Well,
That's awesome.
when it comes to screaming or crying, why don't you just do both?
You can. You absolutely can.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's
And
it's
then,
incredible.
and
yeah,
then
you've been doing it for how long now, though?
Just a couple months.
Is it just a couple months?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got started in May.
I remember when you were telling me about it, and you had like my leg up on the table, and I was like, "She's gonna put me to sub hold right now.
she's
She's gonna sub me. She's gonna make me tap. She's gonna."
I love it.
Yeah,
And this is the heel.
I do a lot of dog walking too, which is nice as well.
Yeah,
So
there
it's
you
a
go.
mixture between jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai.
Yeah. Okay.
Dog walking.
And then, how much strength training do you do?
Probably once a week right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Maybe twice tops.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm
Stuff
Probably-
kind of stuff.
yeah, and it's interesting the carryover
Mm-hmm.
that MMA has.
Yeah.
Where I don't feel like I've really lost my strength training side of
power,
things.
Yeah.
Even probably stronger
Yeah.
than I was before.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic and like, I mean, everything, but I mean, it's a very dynamic, like when you're, rolling with a person, sparring with a person, whatever you're doing, like, that person is like a resistance, they're a weight, but they're moving and trying to like do things to you too. So
Yeah.
it's not just like you're like lifting a barbell up off the ground where it's like very basic physics. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta be gravity and whatever mass is on the bar, that's it, right? But then like, you have to worry about different angles, and then like they're moving and they're trying to do something else to you, and there's like so much dynamic
It's
like motion
constant, isometric, concentric,
Yeah.
eccentric, like happening at every single different limb
to it.
simultaneously.
You training a gi too?
I do.
Okay, yeah. So you're
Yeah.
like, I'm sure you've
Which is
experienced
a
that
whole
where
other
like
thing as well.
your forearms, like the forearm pump
So
is
good.
like you can't even like pick up a pencil afterwards. Like I've
No.
had it before when I first started. Like when I would like go to like drive home, I'm like, I don't know if like how am I gonna turn the
Friday.
steering wheel?
We were rolling for like the last, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've got pretty good grip strength from work, but there was a moment like, okay, I don't know if I can drive home yet. Like I need both my hands to do this.
Full
I
steering
can't do
wheel.
it. It's so wonderful though.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to try it.
You must.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes.
I really
yes,
can't.
yes.
I really can't. So, do you think walking is preventative
I do.
as well? And like, if you were going to prescribe something like that, like, what would you tell somebody? Just do it till they're.
So this is coming from like a former exerciseaholic.
Oh, really? Because okay, you heard. What did you have surgery on? You had surgery on what?
My wrist.
Yeah, and then you were back working out when?
A couple days after.
Couple days later, yeah. Because I
Yeah.
remember catching you in the gym, and I'm like,
Work
"You're
around it.
You're a terrible
work around it.
patient." And you're like, I am a terrible patient.
Gotta keep the rest of the body moving though.
That was awesome.
I do really think that exercise is underestimated in the walking form, as well as like a stress relief thing too. For me, it's kind of therapy, just getting out, being in nature, being with my dog. I throw some music in one ear and I've got like him on my other side. And that's,
Being in the sun.
yeah, being in the sun, first thing in the morning, there's something really peaceful about that. And as far as like something I would prescribe, again, any movement. You can get up, take a longer walk around like your house en route to your bathroom if you have
Yeah.
like a work break.
Yeah.
Go outside to
If-
a couple blocks and
Okay.
back,
If-
it's
So if somebody was in pain and like they could walk, like, would you like let's say they walked like an hour and they came home and they were in more pain, but if they walked like 30 minutes they weren't as much pain, would you just have them
stick
do
with
the
the 30.
30 for
Stick
now?
with the 30,
Okay.
maybe push it to 35-40.
Because one of the things that I learned from you too was that like just because the stretch feels good doesn't mean it's good for me.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, because I told you I was like, I would lay on my back and pull my knees to my chest, and you're like, yeah, you don't want to do that. That's like that's not great for your lower back. It might feel good
In the
short
moment.
term,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
long term it's gonna be worse. And I was like, oh.
Well, it brings you to like that hypermobility thing too, where someone that's hypermobile in their joints doesn't necessarily need to be stretching for an hour a day. They may be working more on like the strengthening and stabilizing, where someone that's hypomobile probably could benefit from a little bit more mobility work, stretching. And again, I'm not an absolutist. You don't have to do static stretching. You don't have to do like banded mobility work. Do what feels good. If you're gonna do it, feels good from like not necessarily like saying like this is good for me thing, but
The results feel good.
yes, exactly. If you feel better doing that, then you're gonna stick with it. So
Yeah.
pick something you enjoy doing more like
Okay.
it.
And you can adhere to it.
Yeah,
You're not just
exactly.
gonna quit after like 3 times doing it.
Because that's with anything, right? It's consistency.
Yeah, 100%.
So what would you say? So the two most common injuries you see are going to be lower back and what?
Lower back and shoulder.
Lower back and
a lot
shoulder,
of
okay.
shoulder impingement.
Do you think they go hand in hand? Because I noticed like when I was in the height of my pain, when I would get up, everything was like a knuckle. You know, I was like this, you know, not using my legs at all.
When your body is in pain, like you have this different posture in general.
Yeah.
Like shoulders come forward a lot of the time. You're in like this invisible sling position. Everything is connected. Like we're little marionette dolls. So if something's wrong at your foot, something's wrong like at your TMJ, whatever it might be, everything is weirdly connected. So again, not surprised that
Yeah.
a multitude of things are going on. But something's gonna be barking a little bit louder, but that might not be the source of the problem
Yeah.
too.
Do you ever run across somebody that's obviously in pain, but like sometimes it's like a little psychosomatic? Have you ever seen that?
I have,
Okay.
which is difficult to address.
Interesting, yeah.
Sometimes it's evident with chronic pain patients too, but sometimes it is like a true psychosomatic thing. Sometimes hypochondria related to it. And again, there's usually something deeper going on.
Mhm.
Sometimes I can get to the bottom of it and suggest very loosely some ways to manage. But I can never really call someone out on that because to them their pain is real.
Yeah.
So it is real.
Yeah.
So who's
You
to
know?
say that?
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so
What's your experience? It isn't real.
just for clarification, what do you define as chronic pain?
Ooh. I
How
think
old?
like anything over a couple months.
Couple months chronic.
Yeah, 2-3 months.
Yeah. I asked about the psychosomatic thing because like I woke up yesterday and my back felt amazing. Like I was like,
Because you know it's gonna be
wow,
here.
I'm gonna squat. I'm gonna go to the gym squat today. And then like immediately when I started like thinking about squatting, I felt like
oh, my back
this
hurts.
little pinch in my back, and then it was like a catch. It was a spasm again. And so I know Adam had mentioned this to me before. That's part of my pain is psychosomatic. Everybody goes total bullshit. I'm in so much pain, you know. And then, but literally yesterday, woke up great, and then like as I got closer to the gym time, my back just kept saying "fuck you." And then when I got to the gym, my knee was bothering me again, and like it was just like, what is going on here? So that's why I asked about it. It was
Yeah.
more for me, but
But along those same lines,
yeah,
something that I have experienced personally, and I also kind of preach to patients, is that there's a difference between discomfort and pain. So working through discomfort is not necessarily a bad thing. I'd rather you do the movement, and maybe it's just like a semi-assisted squat, right? Like getting that pattern down versus avoiding it in general. So after I had wrist surgery, you know, I was very hesitant to again like start MMA. Like I need my hand. B, it's not fully healed, but it ended up being probably one of the best things I could do for my wrist. I had to stop therapy because of the whole state of Michigan shutting down,
Jesus.
and so I didn't get like full range of motion, didn't complete therapy. And honestly, that was like the best form of therapy that I could have had. It was the grip work, it was the range of motion, forced range of motion.
Yeah.
Whether you want it or not, it's going to happen.
It's going there.
Yeah, there were some periods of discomfort, but never really got to that point of true pain. But in my head, there was a lot of like anxiety about the idea of having pain in my wrist. So, a little discomfort's okay.
A little discomfort. Yes, and see, that's where I have a hard time distinguishing is because.
Sure.
Yeah, how do you help someone distinguish that? Because I've come across that too with people where they're like, this is absolutely terrible, this hurts so bad, but in reality, like, it's not actually, like, pain, it's just, yeah, this is gonna suck to an extent.
I think sometimes it's better gauged on a barometer of what happens after that.
Yeah, if it still hurts.
Correct. If it's still hurt, it's if you're sore for days afterwards, and maybe that was pushing it to the point of pain.
Yeah.
But you want to pretty much like blow a kiss to pain when you're in discomfort. Get close enough, but then back away.
Yeah.
Right. So find that edge.
Yeah.
And it is a personal thing because people have different pain tolerance and thresholds. But find that point of discomfort and work within reason there.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, it's an experience thing.
Yeah, and I just thought I was really experienced, and then I was like, maybe this is psychosomatic, like part of it.
We're always learning though. I mean,
Yeah, but
that's
it was really bizarre that it felt so good, and then like I was like, yes, today's the day. And then it's like, nope, it's not. And then how do you coach somebody through that frustration of being injured? Because that is something that I'm running into. Is just I'll go to the gym and I have a plan, and then that gets thrown the fuck out the window because I can't do what I came there to do. So, what do you tell them? Like, if somebody has
I see that
something
a lot with like chronic pain patients where their days can be very much affected by what's going on in their body.
Mhm.
So they can get a spasm, and then their day is shot because of that. And I really try and put a spin on it where, like, you've had X amount of good days before that. This is just like one little setback. You're always trying to look at the trend
Right.
too. It's never going to be this like direct
Straight
line.
linear line.
You're going to have all these little things. And I, again, try and make good about this too. It's like the gratitudes incorporated that. Like, I was able to do X, Y, and Z versus I couldn't do this. So you're able to do like, yeah, I know. It's like, I'm trying, but I'm not always the best at it. But you're able to get through 80% of your workout. There's a little bit of discomfort. Couldn't do some things, but got through most of it.
And as long as that trend is okay,
Continue to go up.
Yeah. Maybe you get
And it might be
82%
super
next
slow.
time. Maybe you get one that's like, okay, I couldn't do it, so it's like way down. But then the next one you come back and it's better.
For sure.
As long as that trend
is going up.
Yeah.
And it might not be big. I mean, I've got a patient I've been working with for probably over a year. Chronic pain patient, has had back surgery, stem cells, didn't work very well. So his measurements are really, really small. And if you can put a couple good days together, that's great. But again, it's depressing, right? When you're in pain for so long.
Yeah.
And not to say that's just true for a chronic pain patient. I'm sure it's depressing when you can't go in there and lift how you want to lift too. We're all very tied to our bodies and physical capacity. So I think it's just kind of the same thing I'm preaching to the choir here, but like honoring your body and where you're at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Honor. Yeah, I like that. Honor the.
Take the advice, Derek.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying.
So,
it's just hard.
is there anything you're like really like learning right now, or reading about, or something that's like really like blowing your mind right now, or anything along those lines?
I will say, so I've been in a little bit of a stagnation professionally, where I haven't done a ton of continuing ed this last year. It's been an interesting year for everyone.
It's been an interesting year.
But I am considering doing a canine rehab certification.
Really?
Yeah. So I have a 9-month-old German Shepherd, but my dog I had for 15 years, put him down last July. And he was an old guy, moved really well, but slipped on the ice like last winter. And so I actually tinkered with some dry needling with him.
Yeah.
And I actually took him to a doggy chiropractor, who I absolutely adore.
Yeah.
And she did wonders for him.
That's awesome.
and I never thought I was gonna be one of this person.
Yeah, like take your dog to the
Dr.
chiropractor.
Chiropractor.
But like there's like big differences in the
Huge,
treatment. Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
And it's like a
awesome.
person.
Yeah.
Like you treat the dog like a
Mhm.
person. And
Yeah.
I kind of love dogs, so I might dabble with that.
That's
I
really
want to
cool, yeah.
continue to develop my dry needling skills. There's a few other advanced techniques that I'd like to learn.
Can you talk about dry needling just so if anybody like doesn't really
Yeah.
know what it is or isn't super familiar with it?
So dry needling is kind of another name for medical acupuncture. The type that I practice is a little bit more Eastern neurological based blend, where there is some dry needling where you're pretty much just finding a trigger point in a muscle, taking a needle, sticking it in that trigger point, and really going to elicit a muscle twitch. That's the idea. I personally don't think that's super comfortable.
Mhm.
I don't enjoy being dry needled like that. So the
Doesn't sound
approach that
like
I do
most.
is a little bit more systemic.
Okay.
So not just finding a trigger point. I'm actually going to put the needle close to nerves
Mhm.
to get a broad regional effect, as well as locally where there is pain. The idea is to create like a small cut into the tissue
Okay.
to then get this inflammation response,
Yeah.
because inflammation isn't necessarily a bad thing. It kind of gets a bad rap. It's when it's been there for a long time. which
At
is
what level
Exactly.
can your body recover
Yep.
from the inflammation?
So needling is, the idea behind dry needling is to get your body to self-heal, kind of get back to homeostasis.
Gotcha.
Um,
So if you have, say, a muscle that has some sort of injury, you could use this to hopefully, basically, you're creating a small injury in an additional injury, whatever it is, and then your body is going to take resources to hopefully repair that.
That is exactly
point.
it.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's kind of like speed up the natural process to repair.
Yep. And there is also a like biochemical response in our body when we put a needle into the skin.
Yeah.
You're actually going to get like this awkward pain relief. Doesn't sound like it makes sense, but you induce pain for pain
Yeah.
relief.
Well, is it kind of like the
I
thing?
can speak to it. Yeah.
I mean, is it kind of like the idea of like if like you're feeling pain somewhere and like you do something
Yeah, kind
silly
of.
like
Yeah.
to like create pain somewhere else and
Yes.
like kind of takes your mind
Yep.
off of like kind of the old adage of take your mind off of it.
Yep,
type
it helps to
thing?
block the pain receptors
Yeah.
that go up to the brain
Okay.
by doing so.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
That was
Okay.
really- it
It's
was
changed my
interesting.
practice for sure. It's like
Yeah.
one thing that's really revolutionized.
Yeah. And now, how often, like, I mean, it's very dependent, I'm sure, on the person and the issue, but like, how often would someone come to get the dry needling done? Like,
Initially, I generally see patients just like broad pain stroke once a week.
okay.
Because it is an hour of hands-on
Yeah.
work versus going to a normal PT or maybe getting 10 minutes a couple
So
times
the
a week.
actual
Yeah.
focus,
Yeah. So anywhere from like once a week to once a month
Mhm.
to
And
once
then
every
kinda
6 months.
easy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Actually.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And then, so you talked a little bit about cupping too.
Mhm.
So kind of talk about just like what that is too, and then kind of the theory behind that.
So cupping works via vacuum,
Mhm.
right? So it's one of, I think, like the only modality that I know of that works via separation
Mhm.
versus compression.
Yeah.
Like massage is very compression based. A lot of PT work is very compression based. So by working via separation, you're kind of separating the muscle tissue, the fascia, connective tissue, and in the same principle of getting blood flow to the area, you're getting a massive rush of blood flow to the area.
Yeah.
I use it for that as well as a brain deterrent when I do dry needling too.
Gotcha.
It helps take the
Oh,
brain
interesting.
there.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you're cupping while you're doing the needling.
Correct.
And then so like your focus as a patient kind of on like the
On the
cupping
cupping,
side of things, not the
exactly.
needles that are being stuck
Yep.
into you.
From like the traditional Chinese medicine standpoint,
Yeah.
it's thought to bring like the toxins to the surface, and
Okay.
some like true acupuncturists will actually like lancing of the skin to then release all the blood that's come to the top. So you're gonna get some bruising normally. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just I generally see that where there is more bruising, we'll call it, that is an area of concern or area of injury.
Okay.
So there's some pattern there.
Yeah. Now, how much of like this has always kind of interested me, like the kind of old school, like Eastern, like Chinese medicine, like that kind of stuff. Like sometimes with like modern medicine, I feel like we can just like discount everything like past a certain or earlier than a certain point, just because they didn't know what they were doing. Like, how much like do you think? You know, this is very broad, but like, is like applicable and how much is like kind of woo woo like?
I think there's a lot that's
Okay.
applicable.
Yeah.
So, like with, let's just say acupuncture and dry needling,
Mhm.
there is a ton of overlap. They're just talking different languages.
Yeah.
I actually almost went back to school for my doctorate in traditional Chinese medicine.
Really?
So I studied, just out of my own intrigue
Mhm.
into traditional Chinese medicine. And there, again, it's very pertinent, but it really takes the right, like, Eastern or Western medicine
Yeah.
practitioner to see both sides of that. One of my mentors when I was growing up was Charles Poliquin,
Yeah.
and he taught me a few little, like, funky manual therapy nuances that were very much Eastern medicine based. And it's kind of like magic when I do it on patients. And it's hard to explain, you just have to experience it.
Mhm.
Like he taught me a trick, I can't give away all my secrets.
Yeah.
But you you can increase hamstring flexibility
Mhm.
by messing with the ears a little bit.
Okay, so this is interesting. Have you heard of RPR?
Yes.
Okay, are you familiar with it at all?
I've heard of it. I'm not
okay, because I haven't done the courses. I was
Yeah.
looking to, and then like everything kind of happened with the world falling apart and all that.
What is RPR?
So reflexive performance reset, I think is
Yeah.
what it stands for, and it's kind of the thought process of that. Like, there's different areas on the body that you can like stimulate, like nervous system activity,
Yes.
to drive more of a response to an area.
Yeah, so Poliquin had like a certification very similar to that,
Okay.
where you could touch various points in the body to stimulate like increased strength.
Gotcha.
So you like hit these points and go for your 1RM, and you might be able to lift like
Yeah.
20 pounds heavier. Like there's definitely some truth to that. It's just
Yeah.
how we, like what words we use to call them.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I think we're all pretty much talking the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just
And I think
which
so
side of the line you're on.
I'm like the science guy. Like I really I like to look at the statistics, but I do think even like I'm not saying none of that works, but like there's even a placebo effect
Yeah.
for some
Absolutely.
stuff. So like
Placebo effect
if you think
It's
something
huge.
works,
It's gonna work.
It works.
And if it works, then it
Yeah.
works.
Absolutely, and
It's
that's
this like really
Yeah.
weird conundrum.
I get that question all the time about should I heat or should I ice.
Yeah.
Personally, I think heat is best. It's going to again drive circulation, increase healing potential. But if
But-
someone likes ice,
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them
If
to
it feels
use
good,
ice.
they're like, this is gonna work,
Then it's going to work.
then it
I
may
can't tell
actually
you
work.
no. Yeah.
I just find this more and more
Yeah.
fascinating as
Oh, it's
as
so
we
crazy.
go
Your
because
brain is
Yeah.
wildly controlling of the
Yeah.
rest of the body. Do you believe
So
it's going to
crazy.
happen?
before Poliquin like jumped the shark on, saying he was a 32 site test and
Yeah.
tell what hormones were low in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before he jumped the shark, he actually had a lot of. I mean, he was a kind of almost a leader in the field and a revolutionist, I would
For
think,
sure.
to some extent, right? Until he started sniffing his own farts, but he did. He did bring a lot to the field
Yeah.
initially. Like he really did for
Yeah.
20 plus years, and I think it's just.
Good man.
So, and I struggle with that daily because I'm like, is this in my mind? Is this working? And then like, am I not letting it work? And that's a big thing that I've kind of come I circle around the wagon on all the time. Is like, is this placebo? Is this working?
Yeah.
Like I eat vegetables yesterday. I feel better today. Is this placebo?
Yeah.
And even if it. But like the thing for me is like, since I'm not a scientist and I'm not a researcher, I should just let it fucking happen.
Yeah.
Like whatever I feel about it, just feel it.
Yeah, I think it's important to be like grounded in the research and the science, obviously. Otherwise, you can go weird places. But
Very much so.
but if it works, it works.
I wish I could just like turn
Like a-
that switch off in my mind and just go, just see how it feels. Just try it. You might like it. But for a lot of it, it's oh man, I feel like I miss out on a lot of things that other people don't miss out on because they're open. And so that's one thing that I'm still trying to learn to do, even though I'm way more open to other modalities now. It's like other areas of treatment, or other like traditional medicine or traditional Eastern medicine. Am I saying that? Okay. I wish I was just open to it. I need to start peeling those layers out. Why am I so against? Why am I And if it works, like you
Yeah,
said,
and I think it's like try what like if like going to the chiropractor all the time like works for you,
Do it.
and like you know it's not a big deal, then go for it.
Yeah.
Like I've tried that before in the past. When this is really doing much for me, and I'm just wasting money, so I'm not gonna go, right? But if like someone like finds that like it really works, like I have clients like that. They're like they go religiously and they feel good. So I'm like, cool, awesome. You want to do it? Go for it.
And like,
who am I to say don't do it?
I think I texted you after our first session. I don't know, 2 days or a day later or something like that. Like I was able to stiff-legged deadlift without pain, and I was like, huh. Because to be honest, like the dry needling and the cupping stuff, like I just didn't believe in any of that. And then it happened, and then like the next day I'm stiff-legged deadlift, which is all hamstring, and obviously I'm not lifting with my lower back, but I could do it. So that was really, this is
Something
interesting.
to be said about that.
Yeah, I'm just, and but like I'm just saying, as a skeptic, like you should try things
For sure.
because it could work. It might be in really deep under the rug reason why it's working for you, but it's try it. So that's why I was like, all right, well I'm gonna come back. I've been steadily getting better since seeing you because of just this. You're so open to answer questions because that's one thing I was like. I'm just. Like they don't want me to come. They don't want to give all their secrets to me. But you were like really,
That was, I think, my biggest turnoff. Again, I'm kind of an open book. I have a history with anorexia for a better part of a decade, and I saw so many different practitioners and had a whole triad of issues following and trying to get to be in a good place hormonally, metabolically, mentally. And one of the biggest turnoffs is just this horrible patient bedside manner that a lot of healthcare professionals have, where I don't want to be just like a person on your schedule for 10 minutes. I have questions, something's wrong, I want to feel better, help me out, look at me like a person with general concerns versus just an appointment that you have to see. And that's really something I try and carry forward, is letting my patients be heard and validated. So we can go back to like even psychosomatic. Your pain is your pain.
Yeah.
So that's again really what I try to achieve. And I don't always
it was
nail
great.
it, but
And I think from like the kind of psychology aspect and like motivational like interviewing-ish stuff, like that is like how you get someone to change, whether it's a physical thing going on, like a habit that they have in their life that they're like sitting in this same position, right? How do you get them to change that, right? It's not by telling them, hey, you need to do this, this is the only thing because I'm the doctor here.
Yeah.
It's okay, do you think you could do this? Do you think you can accomplish this task? If not, what can we do instead? Or like, do you actually think you can? And like give them ownership in it to like kind of be somewhat responsible in it as well.
And I might not be the best physical therapist here, but I'm never going to tell someone to stop doing something if they love it.
Yeah.
I have a handful of people that love to continue to play golf or tennis or whatever it might be umpteen times a week.
Yeah.
Can we maybe scale back one day and see how you do with that, or can you introduce some form of self-care, in addition to seeing me every now and again too?
Yeah. And it's like a trade-off. Like if
It
they
is,
really like
absolutely.
to play golf that much, and like Michigan we can only play in a certain amount of time, like why should we tell them no? Like you have to stop playing golf. Like if you want this to feel better. Like if you're okay with it, like you're gonna have to be here a lot more. Like you're gonna have to like take care of yourself a lot more in other aspects, and you might have to deal with some pain. But like if you enjoy it, who am I to say you can't do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Or you're just going to do it anyway, so we
Yeah,
can have an honest conversation about it.
Right. I'm just not telling you.
Right.
No, I haven't golfed in 2 months.
So if you, anybody that's listening, if they're in pain, like what would be some general things you would tell them that they could do, if they're in pain?
Reach out. Don't try and Google. There's a lot out there. Suddenly you'll have cancer if you're like Googling ankle pain. So.
I have thyroid cancer.
I see the connection here. I have no problem. WebMD told me so.
When I was doing my research.
And nothing wrong with Googling a few things here and there, but I think the quicker you reach out to a professional, the better.
How does someone go about finding, like, what can they look for in like a good physical therapist? Like, Like if they're not in the area.
So I'm a little biased to hands-on
Be biased, yeah.
manual therapy. Again, I think that really is like some of the bread and butter that exists in physical therapy. So I would look for someone that specializes in manual therapy. There are a few continuing education certifications you can also look for too, but anything that really like coins into manual therapy is going to be kind of the best route. And again, I'm a little biased to dry needling as well, so anyone that has a dry needling experience, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah. And then the education for the dry needling, is that all pretty much a standard thing, or is there some
No,
like 100 hours, some have like 10, you know, like what is the...
There are various schools of thought on that. The one that I did, I know people always ask, like, well, how did you get trained in this in like a weekend? Well, because it goes off exactly the 4 years of education I had in PT school, and all I had to do was learn how to manipulate the
It's not like you're coming in like with no knowledge.
Right.
No,
So it's
I
very
agree.
easy
Doctorate
to,
level
yeah.
education.
I was just curious because it's you know, like you'll have a nutritionist over here,
Right.
and you'll have an actual nutritionist here, and then you'll have somebody that can coach over here, and then they all kind of use this broad term.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Or you have a personal trainer that doesn't have a degree in the field like myself, and you have somebody like John that does have a degree in the field. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it feels like, I just wonder if that could vary like a great deal. You know, like
They're kind of all the same when it comes to the amount of hours required to a degree.
Okay.
But their schools of thought are a little different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. Sweet. Yeah. So reach out sooner. Don't just kind of stew in it for like 3 months like I did.
Ideally.
Okay.
I'll figure it out myself.
I was just
Ideally.
YouTube, here I come.
If things are sharp, if things are burning, if things wake you up at night, if you're having difficulty with your day-to-day stuff, that's really an indicator to probably get something checked out.
Yeah, what was for me was I peed like 12 times in an hour, and I was like, oh, yeah, I gotta do something about this. This is probably related to my back. It was I would go. It was unreal. I would go. I'd sit down. I'd be like, I gotta go again. And then this happened. Like, no joke. Like I'm like, I've got to be just emptying the skin here. Like this is. I'm like, I must be dehydrated. Like what's going on here? And then like, I get done with the third time, and I'd like walk around and be like, I gotta go again. You know, like it was really crazy.
Sounds like a bad food poisoning experience I had.
Oh really? Maybe it was food poisoning. But that was like, and then I was like, I gotta do something about this. So.
The waking up at night is.
Oh, it's terrible.
That's like one of those,
Yeah, like the threshold when you cross this, go get it checked out.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it was, and then just pulling it, like keeping it on sleep, like, how many pillows do you sleep with? Like under your head?
One, but I.
Just one. Is it like an orthotic? Is it like one of those special ones?
No, it's just. I think I got this on Amazon or something like that.
Okay.
But I sleep with pillows like around me because I also have a couple of chronic body issues from beating myself up over the years.
Oh.
So I like to cradle one and one between my knees. I'm kind of a side sleeper.
Okay, so you rear naked choke one.
I do. Yes, exactly.
Constantly choking your pillow off.
Just washing it to sleep. Okay, cool.
I do get asked that question a lot. Like,
I'm just curious because
Like, it feels good.
It's comfortable.
it's like
Pillows are kind of a thing now. You can buy some very expensive pillows.
I think it's a
Like
big
cooling
marketing
pillows
thing. Yeah.
and
The cooling thing I understand.
give you better dream pillows. I don't. They're just
better dream
crazy.
pillows. Maybe I'll try. Okay, and then so what, if anybody, in the field, have you seen that you're like, this guy's a complete snake oil salesman?
Jeez.
Oh.
You don't have to name names.
You don't
I
have to name
just
names.
get very skeptical of people that put themselves on Instagram and the like, and again, just preach that this is the end all be all. My way is the way. It gets a little too cultish for me.
Yeah.
Where I really am much more of a believer in a multidisciplinary approach.
So you're not ready to shave your head and drink the Kool-Aid? Okay,
Nah.
I got it. That makes sense.
touching my hair.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
I mentioned this because I found this guy on Instagram, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. Look at this guy. John must follow this guy, and I tagged John in it, figured he already followed the guy, and he's like, this guy's a complete fucking charlatan. Like, he just makes everything up. He looks kind of cool. Hey, he makes things up.
Sure.
But his thing is like, he says he only trains professional athletes, and like, but all the videos are of him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That also speaks to the point of too, like, baffling someone with bullshit.
Yeah.
If you have the confidence.
Yeah.
Which is
It's a big
like
thing.
that's like if you. I mean, we've all seen it in the just general health and wellness space. Like, if you can sell what you're like talking about, like if you have those sales skills, you can convince everybody that this is the best thing in the world.
my thing is this though. Like, it's like. If you have a broad range and you're really good on certain things, but you have a broad range of things, and like me and you were always joking because the answer always depends. It always depends.
Always.
Yeah.
And people want like this blanket statement, and if you don't give them that, they're like, well, you don't, like, and then they go to some guy that's like, carbs are bad, don't eat sugar, fat will kill you, you gotta wear a tinfoil hat when you go outside in the winter, and like if you speak with authority on something, it drives me fucking crazy that people are like, yeah, because like there's a guy that I like. I've listened to him talk enough, and I'm like, yep, this is the only way to do it. And then I gotta pull myself back to earth because I'm like, this guy's on planet Mars.
You have to kind of respect these individuals though that have this
Zealot mentality.
Yeah.
Like this undeniable belief in what they're talking
Absolutely. But here's the thing with any profession. Like, if you're great at what you do, people talk about you. You don't say that about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally, like, I'm not a salesperson.
Yeah.
I hate selling my services. I won't sell my services. If you want to come see me, great. If you don't, I'll refer you to someone else, if that's what you want to do. But yeah, it's bad when people are like, I'm an expert in this. I'm a guru in this.
That's, like, with the example that we were talking about, you sent me, like, I was like, okay, he has the word performance or strength and conditioning pioneer or something like that in his biography section of Instagram. I'm like, if you call yourself a pioneer, I am not listening to what you say. Yeah. If you have like that much of an ego, no, I am this bullshit. Like,
but I fucking bought it.
He did.
Followed the guy, and I'm like, oh, John's gonna love this. If John doesn't know this guy, John's gonna fucking lose his shit. And then John's like, this guy's so full of shit. Like, and I'm like, fuck.
A lot of that
I got bamboozled again. Like I watched that Gary guy. That's the problem with him is he did a lot of really good research initially in nutrition.
Gary Taubes or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He actually brought a lot to the field initially, and then he's literally sitting down with Martin McDonald, and they're having a conversation, and Martin's eating carbs or something, and Gary's like, oh, if I just switched my fats for carbs, I'd instantly gain 20 pounds. And Martin's like, you're a fucking, or whatever he is, I think he's a doctor of some sort. And he's like, you're a doctor. And like, that's the thing that like, was really hard for me to get over was, there are good doctors, and then there are bad doctors, just like any profession, which is crazy. Yeah. But like, it's so bananas that if you speak with such conviction, even if you're fucking wrong, people are like, sign me up for that. I'll have some of that. It's crazy.
Yeah. And
but if you're like, it depends.
Right. And all these people that have like programs out there, even like various concierge physicians, just because you charge X amount of money doesn't mean that your product or your service is better either. Yeah. There's something obviously.
There's psychology to pricing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wish I would have known about that. I was over in the Flint area selling myself for like $10 a half hour.
God.
Just like, I guess I'm gonna have ramen noodles and put a gallon of gas in my car again.
But I'm doing what I love.
But I'm doing what I love. But it's something. There's something interesting about when you put money on the line. Like that's why I didn't fully prepay for the second session with you. I gave you like what I had, you know, because I was like, I gotta make this a point. If I see Taleen, I'm gonna get rolling on things, and I have. Like, I haven't missed my core exercises except for like 2 days since I seen you the last time, and my back is actually weird, feeling better.
Right.
But it's
I did the same thing with MMA. Like, after the first day, I went and I bought all the equipment I needed. Because I knew if I financially committed, I would have to stick with it.
Yeah.
There is that
100%.
psychological influence there.
yeah, which is. I wish I would have known about that. Many things I wish I would have known about when I was younger, but I probably yeah. So
Same.
okay, so anything else you'd like to cover? Anything we didn't cover?
I love this.
Yeah, we
Isn't it fun just like
It's great.
just
We've been like
talking
talking
shit,
about
yeah.
just
we
getting
just
together
yeah, we
and
just like, and we did a much better job this time. I'm gonna timestamp all this, and then it's like, because like John and I shot one that was like 2 hours last week, and we go so we're fucking here, we're fucking there, and we're over there, and I'm like, I'd go on a rant about nonstick pans, and like John gives me his history on NASCAR, and like it was all supposed to be about like dietary,
Yeah.
and like you're like, how the fuck did we get all over here?
I think the drink should be incorporated from here on out.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is like
for sure.
this is the inaugural.
Yeah, I think you started a trend. Yeah, like,
Did you have a little extra time?
Yeah.
How are you on time?
I'm good.
Would you mind talking to us about like anorexia a little bit?
No, not at all.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not cool, but is it? Are you?
Yeah.
we're
I'm
not
very
putting you on the
comfortable
spot?
talking about it.
Okay.
That is one thing I've learned is being very open about it.
Yeah.
Because you really never know who you're going to help with your anecdote.
Yeah.
It again was like a perfect storm event. I was a senior in high school and I broke my ankle, was in a cast for 5 weeks, put on some weight. Gymnastics season started the day after I got my cast off, and I just wanted to get like back into shape.
Yeah.
I was used to, being super active, and then I was sedentary and eating fast food and not able to get away with it. So to get back in competition shape, started off as like a very pragmatic diet. Nothing extreme. I have an ex-boyfriend now, it's just a very good friend of mine. He's like, you were the most strategic anorexic with your meal plan. Like, you did the healthiest way possible. Like, that's well, thank you.
Thank you.
Such a weird compliment, but thank you. So I just spiraled really quickly.
Okay.
And it was definitely a sense of control there where I felt very out of control in the rest of my life. My parents are wonderful. My dad was very much a perfectionist and kind of drove that into all of us. So I think that's kind of a common thread through a lot of anorexics is having a very OCD pressuring parent in the mix that drives that behavior. Obviously, like the change of going into college, all of that kind of played a part. A few relationship changes and friendships in my life at the time. So I just kind of turned in and manipulating my food and controlling that became a thing. I was a perfect textbooked patient as far as getting better and staying home for college, and didn't go to Michigan State, stayed home, and kind of finagled my way of staying out of inpatient rehab by continuing to do outpatient with multiple disciplines. And the biggest thing for me was probably trying to put together the reasons why I really loved manipulating my food at the time. It becomes very much a psychological disorder as well. There's a prevalence of like mental health there, and it's something that I dealt with for the better part of 10 to 12 years, where physically I regained some weight and looked fairly normal, but still like messed with my food a little bit, did too much exercise, but it becomes like this, I don't know, just this voice in the back of your head that you really have to try and quiet. I would say as like the last 7 years or so, 5 to 7, that voice is very quiet, but it's still always going to be there. Just like it's truly a mental health disorder plus addiction all wrapped into one. There is very much an addictive property to it, and you're never really recovered from an addiction. I think you just kind of have to take that standpoint. It's made me who I am today. I don't look negatively upon that experience like I once did at one point.
Yeah.
But I definitely lost a lot of like life to my life in many of those years, where I really restricted what I did socially experience. Travel became something I was not comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And then I competed in there too, so I was at a pretty good place, and then I was like, oh, I'm just gonna step on stage and get a little bit leaner, and then that fueled that again.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that part. Because I asked her about this before, but I just,
Yeah.
I wanted, because this could help somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I didn't realize that that pushed you into the,
And I prepped during my first year of physical therapy school, which was absolutely asinine in hindsight, because I was probably living off of 800-900 calories a day. Like, had I actually had the brain fuel, I mean, I didn't do bad in PT school, but I probably would have done a lot better had I been properly fueling
Yeah.
my brain.
Yeah.
And I competed, and then it became like this whole spiral.
Gotcha.
But I met so many great people along the lines. Like I said, I've worked with so many different professionals, and a lot of that was based around anorexia and trying to recover and find the right tools.
Yeah. What were some of the tools that like really kind of helped you? Obviously it's like you said, it's always there, but what really helped you kind of pull you out of it? Was there anything in particular, or just like follow them together?
I will say, so one of the biggest things was becoming a foster parent for the Humane Society.
Okay.
The first year that I was anorexic, and
Yeah.
being accountable to taking care of a mom and 10 puppies got me outside of myself, where I couldn't.
Did 10 puppies?
Yeah, I had 10 puppies when they were 5 days old. It was ridiculous.
That's a lot.
But I couldn't perseverate so much about, oh, why not?
giddy up.
I couldn't perseverate over all of the calories, all of the energy that I was expending.
Yeah.
Couldn't weigh and measure everything.
Yeah, you still need time.
Didn't have the time.
Yeah.
So that definitely helped.
Okay.
Being in a relationship too
Yeah.
really helped from that standpoint. Later on down the road, where it kind of like kicked everything for me, where you can't be so selfish. Anorexia is such a selfish addiction and disorder that having someone else in my life and having someone else that close in my life, I couldn't get away with the things that I wanted to get away with either.
Yeah. I gotcha.
So
I'm starting to dip into yours. I thought I brought.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
salute.
When you were competing in gymnastics, was that a
Pretty damn good too.
Yeah, right. It's like a shandy pack.
Oh, is that like the variety one?
Yeah, it's like 3 in each.
Yeah.
So
I'm
when
generally not like a fruity. This is pretty good.
I like IPAs and I like the
Same.
super fruities,
Same.
and it's like, where the fuck is my taste bud? And I like whiskey.
Same.
Only because I feel more like a man. when
Man,
I'm
yes,
Yeah,
I know.
right.
I kind of feel like a badass when I drink
It's
some
like
whiskey.
I'm so distinguished sitting here with my.
I'm gonna go up and start a fight in a minute. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And I think a lot too, back like what has helped is just I want to live more. I got to a point where like I can't put more of my years into this. I have to start to live
Yeah.
truly. It's become so restrictive. Your world is like yay big instead of yay big.
Yeah. I gotcha.
I want to sound like that. But like, what was your support structure like? Like when you started to.
So I ended up staying home. My mom was probably like my greatest form of support there. I saw a psychologist, a nutritionist, and at the time a pediatrician, because I was still 17. That was not a good fit, being an adult but still seeing, pediatric doc. So having a few close friends that were really supportive, getting my family on board was one of the biggest things, because you push away relationships.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can't do the things that you want to do from a very restricted standpoint when you've got eyes all around you.
And food is like a.
Very social, communal
Yeah.
thing, yeah. And I
Like
come from a
booze.
very big, I come from a very big family, and it's eat, drink, be merry, and show me you love me, eat more of my food, sort of thing. So my support definitely has like changed over the years, where I don't really rely on my mother, but you know, I've got great friends that keep me in check if I ever needed it. I'm very open about it. I mean, I've had patients walk into my room and my radar goes off like that, and I know immediately. And some, like, I don't bring it up, but it will casually come up in conversation. And it's, again, one of those things like, oh, so this is why you're here. It's not because of an injury, it's because...
It's this other underlying...
Yeah, you need this connection here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, in competing, because I think we all know this is very prevalent in kind of the competition bodybuilding and figure and all that kind of stuff world. Like, what was that like? You know, kind of talk about that a little bit.
From the eating disorder standpoint?
Because you said you kind of came out of it and then that kind of sparked it again.
Again, it's like this addiction and high. You get this ridiculous high feeling from not eating.
Yeah.
For, you know, exercising for an X amount of time. That was like this weird OCD compulsion in my head.
And now, did you feel like that competing kind of made it okay to do these things? Was it kind of like an excuse for you? Okay.
For sure. I kind of still underneath that umbrella. Like, I'm competing.
Yeah, so this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah, like I was in a pretty good spot, yes. But I think stress, again, was the trigger for me, where PT school is no joke, very stressful. A lot of new people, different classmates, and this was something that I could control amidst all the chaos.
Gotcha.
And so it became this, like, again, perpetual cycle where I just got on this roller coaster and slipped a little too far down.
Yeah.
And then obviously coming out of a competition, there's a lot of binging behavior. I would drink too much to allow myself to eat. Went into various cycles. I got into a really disgusting habit of chewing and spitting out food too, to get like the taste of something, but that wreaks havoc on your system as well. You name it, I probably did it under the arch of eating disorders.
Yeah, I say wow because that is what
it's not talked about or things like that.
That's man, I don't want to. The only word that comes to mind when you would chew food and then have it sounds, and I don't want to coin it wrong, but it sounds that's I guess compulsion would be where I would put it, but like, can you imagine the discipline though as well? Would you factor that? I mean, I don't want to say.
But there's a fear of swallowing too, because that's calories that I would want. It's very
just taste.
That's pretty wide.
That's probably the grossest thing I've done in the whole grand scheme of things. But there is an attitude and normalcy of eating disorders in the whole bodybuilding, physique, competition world. We could talk about that for hours.
I was always, because I did a show, I never got as lean as I thought I needed to be, but I had never really had binge behavior before. But I remember I was like 3 days out from the show, and I was measuring, you measure everything when you're doing the show. And I was always putting like 2 or 3 servings of Doritos or 3 ounces into a bowl, and then not taking the bag with me. And that night I was so tired I decided not to, and I just took the whole bag and I ate that bag and another one. So I ate 3,600 calories in a matter of like 25 minutes, and I was like covered in nacho cheese, and I was like, what did I just do? And then I went to the gym and I did cardio for 3 hours. I didn't stop. I just watched videos. I felt like hammered shit. But I had never done anything like that before, but I think that road is really, I think that's a slippery slope. And that's what made me
so tricky.
I really think that people are going to do that and do that seriously, that I think a coach is really
I was just going to say, you
beneficial.
really have to hand the control over to someone else, because I coached myself the first time, and I always wanted to get back into it, probably from this like selfish, disordered standpoint, where I wanted to get that leanness, control, high feeling again. But you really do need a coach to take all of the emotion out of it and just tell you, do this, and then coach you out of it is probably more important than even coaching you in.
That's
such a big thing.
Yeah, we agree with that.
Yeah.
John and I have talked about that before, where You need an after
Yeah.
care, you know.
Like there's a plan to get you there, but there
Yeah.
needs to be a plan to take you out of it as well. Because
For
you
sure.
can't just like, okay, I got here, and then now what? And then it's gonna be binging and who
Yeah.
knows what. You know, you need that good reverse out of it.
But I mean, generally the reverses are you
Long and
binge
hard.
for
Yeah.
you just binge for a month until
Yeah.
you're 30 pounds
Yeah.
above.
Oh,
where you
every
were.
single morning I'd be like, okay, this is gonna be the day. I'm not gonna do it again. And it happened, and it happened, and it happened.
It's such an interesting phenomenon, I think, because
It really does change your brain chemistry to a degree too, where that in turn plays a part of this whole binging and restricting behavior. You're not getting the proper neurotransmitters, and again, stress does remarkable things to your body, and these behaviors are stressful physiologically. So it's just,
We need Dr. Delta to explain that.
yeah, and it's just like man, I don't want to put this in a bad light, I guess, but I felt like I was growing as a narcissist when I was you know
Oh,
getting ready
yeah.
to compete,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
everything was about me,
for sure.
you know, like it was
It
terrible.
is.
And
It's
you just-
your world becomes again small,
yeah,
and
and I just
it's
I think,
all focused around you and the aesthetics of you.
and I didn't have a coach either. I think if I would have had one, I think they would have recognized there was some issues going on there. But I don't know. I definitely think you're going to do a show. I think it's really, especially if it's your first one. I think it's really good to get a coach.
I mean, if you can go in without emotion and just do it for the fun of doing it, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But it's a political world. It's not super subjective, which makes it pretty frustrating.
It's terrible.
It's not objective. It's very subjective.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's you know, I've been to a handful of them, and bikinis like I think it's just like it's like
That's the worst.
ugh. And it's
That's what I mean.
not
from
just
experience because that's what I did, and it's
it's just
it's
like,
the most like subjective of them all.
all the judges seem to be male to me.
Yeah.
And like yeah, it feels to me now, looking back on it, it feels grimy almost, you know, not like competing's grimy, but like the organizations.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and just say it's become more of a tits and ass show than
Yeah.
a true
Yeah.
physique show. You know, you're supposed to have like this proportionate balance, whatever. It's obviously different for every division, but it's all about tits and asses. And again, that's fine,
Yeah.
but
Call it what it is.
yeah,
That's-
absolutely. And that's too why like breast implants are pretty prevalent among the whole competition community,
Yeah.
because it adds to the
What can
package.
set apart-
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
which is a little unfortunate.
because if you have good glutes and you don't have anything up top, the judge will tell you that it's wrecking your balance.
Right.
And like, I've seen women that I know really consider and then go for it to do like steroids,
Yep.
because that's for bikini,
Yep.
because they want to be able to put on muscle and stay lean all year
For
round.
sure. You get that muscle density, and
And
there comes a point to where you're overtraining, and you need some supplementals
And
To
there's
be able to
support
recover
to
from
continue
it.
to do that.
there's very few high level, I mean, I'll go out on a limb and say this, I guess, but there's very few high level bikini pros that are
Completely natural.
completely
Yeah,
natural,
I would say not.
and
Which is okay.
it's totally
It's
fine,
totally-
but
I
like
mean-
they're not open about it.
Yeah.
This is my
Don't
largest
don't
issue.
pretend.
This is
Yeah.
my largest issue. Is you have
Don't hashtag natural
Yeah,
you
athlete
have
when
these,
you're
yeah, you have
not.
these people that have 2 million followers, and
Yes.
they're selling you this $800 a month package
Right.
for their coaching service, and they're telling you can do whatever you want with your body, and they are on drugs year round, because you can't be lean all year round. You just can't be. You can be a stage of lean, not stage lean, but you can be certain lean, right? But you can't hold that lower body fat percentage all year. It's not and still gain
It's
muscle
not
tissue.
healthy.
How does that
Yeah,
work?
yeah,
How
yeah.
does that work? And
Right.
so that's my biggest thing, that is the transparency. Like, I always go back to Jared Feather and Dr. Mike Israel because those guys are both on gear and they're getting fucking massive. They look great. They're having a good time, but they're totally
they're
open
upfront
about it.
about
For
it.
sure.
Yeah.
And they don't say you got to do more weight. They go, you need a better range of motion.
Yeah.
And I love that. So I'm totally fine with people doing use drugs, but
Same. I've seen some amazing things from like the rehab standpoint with growth hormone, or even
Yeah.
like testosterone for men can do wonderful things. It's not
Tell me
considered
more.
like.
How much is
Like,
how much is like are those kind of things used in the rehab setting? Like those therapies? Is it kind of a very
it's not
small?
talked about
Yeah.
per
Okay.
se, but it's gotten a bad reputation because of
Yeah.
abuse,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
But growth hormone is a fantastic
Yeah.
hormone that
For
helps
repair.
to repair.
Yeah.
will it make my head bigger because Barry Bonds went up like a hat size, and I'm okay because I'm like a small medium right now. I have like a tiny giraffe head for this large body, so I wouldn't mind getting a bigger dome. Totally fine by me. Yeah, so that's how that was just really a joke.
There's a lot out there that have taboos around them, but
Yeah.
I'm all for most of everything.
As long as
You're
it's the
open
right
about it,
setting and
If
the
you're controlled, getting
yeah.
the right source,
yeah.
go for it. Who am I to tell you not to?
I just that James PT guy from Australia, like he was open about his usage too. And he tells people not to. He recommends people don't do it because it's like this vicious cycle of like you feel fucking phenomenal, you look amazing,
Right?
your confidence is through the roof, and then you have to wean off.
Yeah, what happens when you come up?
And then you're
like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be at my
You
peak.
kind of shrivel up a little bit, you know, like you have trouble getting hard if you're a guy, you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
and you know, like you have all these fucking issues. Well, that's what he talked about. Again, I've never done them. I have been to the point in college where I had purchased, and like I had just injected my roommate, and I was like, yeah, we're gonna do this, and then I was like,
A little needle phobia. No.
can't do it, but I was very close.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, so it's like, and then he to this day still looks fucking amazing. I don't know if he just did him for a little while or whatever, but he looks great still. I mean, the guy looks like he's 10 years younger than me. And so maybe he was dosed appropriately, maybe just handled it well, I don't know. But it's, I don't know, I don't really have a problem with people that do it at all.
Same. Yeah.
I just want,
The honesty.
I want the
Yeah.
honesty.
Yeah.
You know, I want them, and like that's, yeah, the honesty is the transparency is like the biggest thing for me because like you know you're not gonna look like these guys.
Yeah, and especially with like social media world, like I think like it's your like if that's you, like you have to be open and honest
Yeah.
because you know if you've got a shit ton of followers and like you know younger kids whatever that are just getting into things and like you're creating this like mental like fuckery basically, you know.
And then you just like that, yeah. I don't know. I haven't done it, so but I like every day I'm like, would my back be better? Because I'd certainly be more jacked if this happened. You know, like,
There's a very intriguing world of like peptides and SARMs and stem cells and exosomes and all that. I mean, there's stuff out there,
Yeah.
and I'm not the expert on it. I can't speak a ton on it, but it's very intriguing.
Yeah, I had a client actually when things were normal and we could actually train people, but that's besides the point. And he's a doctor, just a family physician, but he's really into like that kind of stuff and the longevity and like some of the conversations we would have, just like the stuff that he would go to all these conferences, like, and you know, like experiment on himself basically, like with all these, like exactly all the things you're talking about, right? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying these right now, and like gonna try these next at these dosages, and like he was like his own guinea pig, but
Yeah.
like
It's
I
like-
tell you what, I've never had someone like for being in his 50s, he like progressed faster than anyone I've ever seen, and like got over injuries quicker than anyone I've ever seen. And just through taking these different drugs and combinations of things, and it's
Yeah,
really
I mean,
interesting.
I've personally tinkered with a few healing peptides,
Okay.
like with my wrist
Yeah.
and knee, and actually had an exosome injection into my Achilles tendon.
What happened to your Achilles?
Exosome. So when we had this whole like stay home order, I started running a little bit.
Okay.
I
Did?
I don't generally
I think
run.
Everybody tried that.
I did too. I went 2 days.
I ran once.
Like, at least I can still run. It's
Fuck
been a
this.
minute.
This sucks.
And I think it was just like the perfect storm. I didn't hurt it running,
Okay.
but that's what led up to
Gotcha.
it. I was actually standing on my toes to get something out of a cupboard and came down and felt a pop, and it was
Oh no.
Yeah.
really instantaneous and started limping. But it is also a prior injury
Gotcha.
from
Okay.
when I was a kid.
Gotcha.
So of course I'm permanently re-injuring it. And I had an exosome injection. Exosomes are like a byproduct of stem cells.
Yep.
They're a little smaller than stem cells, so they have a better chance of like, they pretty much turn on like your body's own healing cells to then regenerate. And that worked wonders.
Really?
Yeah.
How long?
I had,
Was it just one treatment or
I
multiple?
did have one.
Okay.
Yep. And I had like audible and palpable crepitus, so you could actually like hear when I was pointing and flexing my toe. Pretty gross. That went away in a couple of days, and then I was able to walk pretty comfortably within like in a week. And with Moses, I was like running back and forth in the yard in 2 to 3 weeks.
Wow. That's
Where
awesome.
before I could not walk.
Yeah.
I was hobbling
Right.
around with a shoe on.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where things go.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you got things like PRP, and you got things like stem cells, and
And how they progress.
yeah, I think they're getting better.
Yeah.
Figuring things out.
Yep.
They are expensive, but
Over time. But
Yeah.
like just like anything, you know.
if you're gonna spend, hundreds and hundreds on things that aren't working,
Yeah.
maybe spend a little bit more on something that could potentially really fix it.
I just want quality of life and to keep my hair. That's what
That's
I
just
really
don't
want.
take that for hair growth.
That's what I really
There's a
want.
few
It's like,
other,
I think that's what stopped me several times. Is like,
I think
I don't want to be fucking bald. I got a tiny head. I can't be bald. It's gonna look really funny if I have a tiny head and these floppy ears.
I didn't know that was a big fear for you.
It is. It's like I grew up. My dad was bald by the time he was 18. My grandpa was bald by the time he was 18.
You're doing good.
18.
I'm doing great.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I just gotta hold on to it a little while longer. And then I have, I have a bunch of insecurities around my dome, and one of them, another one that got brought out by this whole COVID thing is my ears look fairly normal, but they can't even hold a mask. They're so flimsy.
Really?
So if I
security.
if I have a mask on, and it just my ears just get pulled in all kinds of weird dimensions, and it's it's funny to me. It's funny to me. It's not really an insecurity, but yeah, it's and I think that is what stopped me from trying the sauce 3 or 4 times. Is I just want to keep my hair.
Yeah, that's true.
But but not everybody loses their hair, right? So I don't know.
You don't want to take that risk.
No.
It's a big deal for you. You don't want to take the risk.
Here's where I'm at. It's I don't want to be in pain anymore, and I want to be able to squat, and I want to be able to deadlift. And if I did some drugs, am I going to heal quicker? Probably. So I don't know. It's something I'm going to have to keep thinking about, but I don't really want to lose my hair because I hear once it starts.
Keeps coming back to
Once it starts, because I don't wake up and find hairs on my pillow, I don't even have any in the drain.
You just shave it, you embrace the bald head, and you walk out.
Tiny bald head, It'll look terrible. Oh, maybe it'll make my shoulders look bigger.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? Look at that.
Positive.
Twisting it
There
around.
it is.
Yeah, and then I'll just get a chin implant. We'll be all set.
You have those little.
Well, that's what I would get if I was going to get any kind of plastic surgery. It would definitely be the chin implant. That's why I have a beard.
Another insecurity.
Yep, it's all around my dome. The rest of me, I'm
Good. Love it.
I'm good here. But yeah, so okay, we're coming up on 2 hours.
Wow.
That
went by quickly.
Flies, right?
Yeah.
Any other?
So can we get you back on again sometime?
I would love to. This is a
Perfect.
blast.
There's a bunch of other things that we want to cover, with this podcast, not just, I want to do I want to get stuff on relationships, getting over things, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah, I think it'd be really fun to, I got to talk with you about this one later, but for us to, sit down, me, you, and Aaron, and Chelsea, and then just talk about what it's like being fitness couples or fit couples.
Yes,
Okay.
do
Okay.
it, do it.
And,
Yeah.
But yeah, we'd love to have you back again. We got a schedule, and then this one probably John and I have like I think 6 hours to shoot, and then this one will get posted because we have like a list of the way we want to do it.
Where can people find you again? Just so we'll put it on the notes and all that, but if they need to come see you,
Dr. Najarian Physical Therapy.com, or on Instagram you can find me at my personal page at TALNAJ or performance.physicaltherapy.
Okay.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you
so
for
much.
having me.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. 2 hours. Look at
It
that.
just goes so